A Storm of Swords, Jaime 6.
Jaime wheeled his horse around and rejoined Steelshanks Walton and his 200. Lord Bolton had accoutred him as a knight, preferring to ignore the missing hand that made such warlike garb a travesty. Jaime rode with sword and dagger on his belt, shield and helm hung from his saddle, chainmail under a dark brown surcoat. He was not such a fool as to show the lion of Lannister on his arms, though, nor the plain white blazon that was his right as a sworn brother of the King's Guard. He found an old shield in the armoury, battered and splintered, the chip paint still showing most of the great black bat of House Lothston upon a field of silver and gold. The Lothstons held Harrenhal before the Wents, and had been a powerful family in their day, but they had died out ages ago, so no one was likely to object to him bearing their arms. He would be no one's cousin, no one's enemy, no one's sworn sword. In sum, no one.
Brand 2, A Storm of Swords.
The Dragon Knight once won a tourney as the Knight of Tears, so he could name his sister the Queen of Love and Beauty in place of the King's mistress. And Barristan the Bold twice donned a Mystery Knight's armour, the first time when he was only 10. "It was a little Crannock man, I bet." "No one knew," said Mira, "but the Mystery Knight was short of stature, and clad in ill-fitting armour made up of bits and pieces. The device upon his shield was a heart tree of the old gods, a white weirwood with a laughing red face." "Maybe he came from the Isle of Faces," said Bran. "Was he green?"
The Mystery Knight.
He lay unmoving, face down in a puddle. When they helped him to his feet, he was mud from head to heel. "The brown dragon!" someone shouted. Laughter rippled through the yard as the dawn washed over White Walls. It was only a few heartbeats later, as Dunk and Sir Kyle were helping Glendon Ball off his horse, did the first trumpet blew, and the sentries on the walls raised the alarum. An army had appeared outside the castle, rising from the morning mists. Egg wasn't lying after all, Dunk told Sir Kyle, astonished. From Maidenpool had come Lord Mooton, from Raventree Lord Blackwood, from Duskendale Lord Darklin. The royal demesnes about King's Landing sent forth Hayfords, Rosbys, Stokeworths, Masseys, and the King's own sworn swords, led by 3 knights of the King's Guard, and stiffened by 300 ravens' teeth with tall white weirwood bows. Mad Danelle Lothston herself rode forth in strength from her haunted towers at Harrenhal, clad in black armour that fit her like an iron glove, her long red hair streaming.
Hello and welcome to Bend the Knee, a Song of Ice and Fire podcast. I am Sir Matt, the Bud Knight.
And I am Sir Ezra the Watchful. Welcome to our Song of Ice and Fire book club. Today we are discussing our first Green Dream. During this episode, we will be discussing the Lothston Shield and the Knight of the Laughing Tree.
Yeah, we want to wish you guys happy holidays, whether you support the old gods or the new, the horse lord, or any of the faceless men, whatever. The Roinar.
Hey, if you're a heathen and you don't worship any of the gods, that's fine too. All right,
that's fine. That's fine with us. All we ask is that you sit back, have a drink, be merry, and
enjoy.
Dive into some of these major theories which we're going to be doing. Green Dreams is going to be part of our Patreon series. These are going to be like the huge, massive, mega theory breakdowns, but. We're doing this as our Christmas episode, and we for some of you who are like, wait, where's the reread this week? Sir Ezra and I decided, it's Christmas. Let's take a week off from that and do one of these. Well, then we'll dive right back into the reread next week.
Absolutely, yeah. We're just as busy as everybody else. The holiday parties out the wazoo. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I've had
Sir Matt texted me last night. Yeah, he's like, hey man, another holiday party coming up tomorrow. Like.
Oh my god! I was like, I feel like I went to like four Thanksgivings and 8 holiday parties. And
Jeez,
it's a lot, man. Sir Ezra, how was I got you a present. It's in the mail.
Yeah.
I just want to say it is a name day and a Christmas present. I felt like, they're so close together. I'll just get you one big one.
Yeah. Story of my life. Story of my life. Yeah. Just lump them together.
Yeah. Sir Ezra is unfortunately one of those people who has their name day close to Christmas. So you kind of get screwed on presents.
Just here's a slightly bigger present than, your sister gets 2 large ones, but, because they're opposite, times of the year, whatever. It's my life. So, but, I appreciate it. So.
I've always felt blessed that my birthday is it's July 1st, so it's right in the middle. So it's like, oh, okay, cool.
Right.
It's like every 6 months. Yeah, I get Christmas, and I get my birthday, and so it's like, it's right in the middle of the year, so I get it all the time. Yeah, so
fantastic. But yeah, so how you doing though? Elsewise, everything good over there? I know you get the party.
Hey man, oh yeah, everything is good. I have been, I have just been diving deep. And so I found some of this stuff we're about to talk about, doing some very deep research.
Yeah.
I got I got some Game of Thrones presents so far, which I feel super cool about. Yeah, I got an ugly Christmas sweater. I got it's got the Night King on it. It says winter's here. So it's super cool actually. I love it. Yeah. I love it. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, it's like a couple weeks we'll have the new year. You and I were talking about just the new year, the goals, the excitement.
Oh yeah, guys, get ready because Sir Ezra and I have been doing a lot of work. We have Raven's Nest coming. Some other the rewatch coming. Just get ready because we've been taking this time off since we kind of put Follow Up Friday to the side for now. We've just been able to focus on a lot of stuff and I kind of view it as like rebuilding like infrastructure, right? It's like, hey, if you were building a city, it's like, all this cool like parks and all this stuff is great, but you kind of need like roads and stuff first.
Yeah.
So, it's like you got to lay that foundation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's like that couch is super cool, but I need a basement first. So,
right. Yeah.
So we've been doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes that's really going to streamline everything on our end and make it a lot easier once the show comes out and everything, and it's going to be great.
But I mean, here's one of the benefits right here. What you're about to listen to is, Sir Matt has the time, and then I have the time to dive into the books, the theories, the things that you guys send us. I felt like every Friday, we would get new stuff, and I'd be like, oh man, I want to research that more. Well, you don't have time.
And then because we don't have time. And so then we just have to be. And and if you go back and listen, a lot of times I'm like, man, I don't know, and I never want to give that answer. I don't know.
Right.
So this was awesome that I was able to dive into this huge mega theory here that I have not seen a lot of people talk about.
Right.
And it's great because Sir Ezra and I have been working on this actually for 2 weeks, pretty steadily for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, and Sir Matt would text me updates on this. And I'm just like, what is going on? I felt like I could see him down in the crypts, just in some library, just shuffling through papers and comparing manuscripts and this text and that text. And I mean, he was all over the place, and I was just like, okay, man, clearly there's something here, so let's go with it. So
yeah, I have done research across the board. We are pulling stuff today from Sir Ezra and I. We both went to church when we were young, and you know how at the beginning of church they'd say oh, today we're going to be reading out of this,
right?
So today, guys, we're going to be reading from A Storm of Swords, Jaime 6. We're going to be looking at A Feast of Crows, Brienne 1. We're going to be looking at some sections of the Mystery Knight, The World of Ice and Fire.
Yep.
The whole gambit. All right, we've got a major kind of theory here. And Sir, are you ready? Are you ready to kind of?
Yeah, I think I'm ready.
This?
Yeah, I mean, with your guidance, we will make it through. Is it okay to kind of share our main big questions, the overarching questions that we have as we kind of go through, and then we'll kind of break it down?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So first things first, I feel like we need to give credit because a lot of credit is due to this. I can't even remember how I came across this theory. I know I was going through Reddit, and I came across this guy. You guys, absolutely need to check it out because he is a master here. It is can'tuse.wordpress.com. It's funny that it says can't use, but we're using it.
We're using it.
Yeah, we're using it, buddy. So this guy has got a lot of really great theories, super well done. And I was reading some of his stuff, and I was like, man, I've not seen anybody kind of make these points. And some of his stuff, what we're going to be going over today, I agree with a lot, but I think he just kind of missed a couple things, or at least to me, it kind of clicked something in my mind that was like, oh my gosh, I think this is 100% the way it is.
Yeah.
So, well, definitely want to give credit, and we're pulling kind of from some of his main topics here, but then Sir Ezra and I have done a lot of research on our own as well. So.
And I just want to point out too, like, it's sort of the same thing that we do when anyone sends in like a follow-up Friday
absolutely
theory. We read it, we take it for what it is, we discuss it, and then from there it stimulates different conversations, different rabbit holes. And so this theory that we came across actually has taken Sir Matt in a completely different direction, and so we thought it was worthy of. And that's where the research comes in, is that you start to like, well, you know what? Let me go look that up myself. Let me see if there's more before or after what he has laid out, and make our own connections. Because one of the things that you easily made a connection to in the Mystery Night, all of those Dunk and Egg series, when that came up, I mean, there were things that you kind of could recall and remember, like, way better than I think what is articulated or laid out here in his theory. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah,
exciting.
absolutely. So, all right. So we're gonna kind of briefly go over, and some of this is gonna be our stuff. Some of this is gonna be this guy's kind of points, and I'm gonna briefly kind of go over it. This guy's kind of thought and theory. And so the big idea here is the Lothston Shield. So that's House Lothston of Harrenhal. They were one of those many houses that held Harrenhal and kind of disappeared. This guy's main theory, it's called Howland's Great Lie, the myth of the Laughing Tree. So in A Storm of Swords, Jaime 6, I think we've already played that clip here, but
Yeah.
Jaime Lannister picks up a shield, right? A shield when he's at Harrenhal, and it's an old shield from House Lothston.
Yeah.
So ultimately what this can't use WordPress guy is saying is that there was no Knight of the Laughing Tree. Instead, there was a mystery knight adorned with the shield from House Lothston. This is the same shield of Lothston that was taken by Jaime Lannister and thereafter by Brienne of Tarth. We know that Brienne gets it later.
Yeah.
Thus, the tale of the night was coupled with a single great lie that concealed its greatest truth. And that is, ultimately, this guy's argument is that Howland Reed made up this story of the Knight of the Laughing Tree. And that Howland Reed is the Knight of the Laughing Tree because we're told it through the eyes of Jojen and Mira, right? When they're telling Bran, that's one of the people we hear talk about this thing. And so that's kind of his argument, and that shield Jaime has is the same shield used by the Knight of the Laughing Tree. So Sir Ezra and I have some different thoughts on it, and it's kind of led us in a different direction.
Yeah.
But so we're going to be kind of going back and forth here a little bit. So
Sure. Yeah.
yeah, so Jaime Lannister picks up that shield. Talks about, I just want to pull it up here. He found an old shield in the armory, battered and splintered, the chip paint still showing most of the great black bat of House Lothston upon a field of silver and gold. The Lostons held Harrenhal before the Wents and had a powerful family in their day, but they had died out ages ago, so no one was likely to object to him bringing their arms. He would be no one's cousin, no one's enemy, no one's sworn sword. In sum, no one. Now later, Brienne gets the shield, and in A Feast for Crows, Brienne won. The likes of me, Brienne was uncertain what he meant. Sir Illifer crooked a bony finger at her shield, though its paint was cracked and peeling. The device had bore showed pain. A black bat on a field divided bendwise silver and gold. You bear a liar's shield, to which you have no right. My grandfather's grandfather helped kill the last Lothston. None since have dared to show that bat black as the deeds of them that bore it. The shield was the one Sir Jaime had taken from the armory at Harrenhal. Brienne had found it in the stables with a mare, along with much else, saddle and bridle, chainmail, hauberk, and visored great helm. Purses of gold, silver, and parchment more valuable than the other. I lost my own shield, she explained. So this shield is given some significance.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
In the story we have itself, this shield is given somewhat of a significance in that Jaime picks it up, it's referenced, and then it's referenced again that Brienne has it. So why would this specific shield be given significance? And keep in mind, it was picked up at Harrenhal. So this can't use guy goes on and he explains some stuff, and we're gonna Sir Ezra and I are, there's a lot to cover here, so we're going to be kind of going back and forth and
sure.
and kind of pulling all over here. So he later goes on to talk about the Night of the Laughing Tree and talk about how the Night of the Laughing Tree is given one of the things that's very significant about the Night of the Laughing Tree is his shield. So in Bran 2, A Storm of Swords, this is Mira talking to Bran. No one knew, but the Mystery Knight was short of stature and clad in ill-fitting armor. Made up of bits and pieces, the device upon his shield was a heart tree of the old gods, a white weirwood with a laughing red face. The king was wroth, and even sent his son, the Dragon Prince, to seek the man, but all they ever found was his painted shield hanging abandoned in a tree. It was the Dragon Prince who won that tourney in the end. So,
Yep.
This guy, so then they talk again. There's another line where it's kind of repeated. It says, the Night of the Laughing Tree had vanished. The king was wroth. All they found was his shield, hanging in a tree.
Yep.
Right. So again, there's a lot of lines, and it all references back to this Night of the Laughing Tree and the shield that he finds. So this can't use guy even goes on to talk about, well, how is it that, the shield gets in the tree? He breaks it down even further. He's like, did somebody throw it up in there? Was somebody in a tower at Harrenhal and they threw it and it landed down into a
oh, hey, that's yeah.
Into the tree, exactly, because they talk a lot about the tower, right? The Wailing Tower that was kind of abandoned and stuff like that. He even goes on further to break down, like, how would this shield survive, right? If Jaime found it in the armory, why would it have never been painted over? Yeah. You would imagine that a new lord would come in and find this shield. Like they would want to. You think they would want to erase the memory of the house before them? He kind of argues, well, if it was in the armory, it was probably just used for practice. They didn't really want to keep it, great, because who really cares? Harrenhal's also a super huge castle that's like impossible to keep up with, unless you had like a Targaryen or like King's Landing type crew there to kind of maintain it.
Yeah.
And so how did that shield get there in the first place?
Yeah. Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's significant to me is that, like, we're at the tourney of Harrenhal, right?
Right.
We're talking about a shield from House Lothston that once was the ruler of Harrenhal. You mentioned that the tree, that the shield is hanging in the tree. That's symbolic, right? It's hanging in the tree. Someone hanging from a tree. The dead, whatever. You could look into that a little bit. I like what you said. Is that, like, how did you get it up there? Did somebody toss it up there? Did somebody throw it out of a tower? Which I think you're gonna make that connection here in a second. But like, the other bit here that's interesting is we're talking about a Lothston shield that was used back in the Blackfire Rebellion, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I don't know where we're going to go exactly, but I just wanted to keep it clear that, like, then you have the Night of the Laughing Tree shows up with another shield, and painted on it is a laughing weirwood. It's just laughing weirwood. What happened to that shield? What was painted underneath? What was painted underneath? Was something painted over it later? You could go either way with that. So
right. Oh, exactly. Oh, and this guy breaks it down because his argument is one, it's hard to get somebody to paint it because, and we'll get into all this stuff when we get into who is the Knight of the Laughing Tree, and how does it tie into it, because his argument is, so somebody would have had to repaint that shield with the Lothston symbol. So it could have been a regular shield that was used by the Knight of the Laughing Tree. They paint the Laughing Tree over, and then they repainted it. This guy's argument is, well, there was never a laughing weirwood tree on it in the first place. He just used this Lothston shield.
Yeah.
And then he threw it in the armory, or it somehow found itself back into the armor, because he references the Hedge Knight and says even Dunk, had to go find somebody to paint his shield, and stuff like that. And in the Mystery Knight, Dunk has a hard time finding someone to paint his shield.
Yes.
But this tourney was the biggest tourney ever held. So
Sure.
It was way bigger than the tourney at Ashford Meadow. Yeah. So in my mind, there would definitely be someone to paint it. So that's somewhere where I kind of disagree with him on. But okay, so he kind of goes on and starts talking about lies and all the lies that are referenced in the book and stuff like that. And so he then makes a big argument that Howland Reed is in fact the Knight of the Laughing Tree. He probably told Mira and Jojen somewhat of a lie, because stories get exaggerated. If you go back to the Hedge Knight, right? Do you remember when Dunk is talking to Baelor Breakspear about the story of Sir Arlen Pennytree? And this guy doesn't reference that. So that's something I think he completely missed, because he's talking about these lies and how lies grow. And Baelor Breakspear specifically says, he's like, yeah, tales kind of grow throughout the years, right?
Yep.
It wasn't 7 spears. It was, it was 4. Like it truly was 4 or something. Yeah. Or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And
exactly.
And so that's something that he makes that argument with, is that that the story could kind of grow. Yeah. Go ahead.
On that point, so one of the things that I think has been said is that a mystery knight appeared at the tourney. But what Howland Reed may have said, just kind of going off what I read, that his theory, and then just what has said to his children, is that it was the Knight of the Laughing Tree. That was his name. That was the sigil that was on his shield. But again, it's also referred to like this was also just a mystery knight. So if you separate the two, like because there truly was a knight there. I mean, there was someone who was a mystery knight. Whether that knight had a Laughing Tree shield or not, seems like you'd have to trust in what Howland Reed or what Mira, and Jojen are telling Bran, right? I mean, or maybe that's been told for years. I don't know, but like, I'm just trying to think as to whether or not it was truly, a shield that had a Laughing Tree on it or not. So
right.
But anyways, yeah,
yeah, and then he goes on to talk about what we know about weirwood trees, right? And that and that there are no laughing weirwood trees. Like when we see weirwood trees, they're usually their faces are usually like frowning or like kind of a grin, but never laughing, and stuff like that. And we do so that's just another argument he makes to kind of talk about it.
Right.
So that's kind of his big thing, and he doesn't really know exactly why Howland would lie about it. But he does go on to say that there's a lot of theorists out there that say that because now it's the shield is with the Brotherhood Without Banners, and that a lot of people say that they're about to go find Howland Reed, so that Howland Reed that's how we get that connection. Howland Reed sees that shield, recognizes it. So that is that guy's, some of that guy's big, major takeaways from this. It's like an enormous essay. Now, Sir Ezra and I are going to kind of go through, and we're going to break down some of the stuff that we like from it, some of the stuff we don't, and kind of put our own spin on it and our own kind of analytical research here that we've done on it. So I agree with him. I definitely think there is something significant about that shield. Whether or not it is the Knight of the Laughing Tree's shield, to me, I think that it could be the shield, and that someone painted House Lothston on it and threw it back in the armory, because if you remember, the Mad King was very upset with this Knight of the Laughing Tree person. I would imagine that Rhaegar probably could paint. Harrenhal is such a big place, though. I don't know if you'd have to paint it and hide it. I also do not believe at all that Howland Reed is the Knight of the Laughing Tree. We'll get to that later.
Okay. Yep.
But to me, I found something else in this that I think I find very significant. We're going to get to that, but Sir Ezra, just kind of brief takeaways on what your thoughts of this can't use guys. Kind of big theory.
It's interesting. I mean, it's it's based on like the It's a theme actually in Gur's work, is that people lie to us, or you have to really, can you trust that narrator? Do you have a reliable or unreliable narrator? And so when you look at the stories that are being told, we just sort of, in the beginning too, you're lulled into, well, that's the tale. I mean, that's a story.
Right.
It's true. But then the more, he kind of litters in these different little pieces that don't quite make sense. Laughing trees don't, or werewood trees don't necessarily laugh. So why did we choose that? Was there something significant in that? And if it was, if you believe, as he does, like that Howland Reed, is this Night of the Laughing Tree, why would he, and he's a devout type of guy, why would he, choose his shield as such, I guess, unless it's like he's laughing at his foes there. In some regard, plus the way in which those knights are struck down is just sort of, I don't know. It's not a Howland Reed doesn't seem to fit someone who could actually do that. In my opinion, as someone who could knock those guys down and then have them reprimand their squires. So that was one of my biggest things. I mean, I like the connection to the Lothston shield and the history that you and I are about to get into with it. And I even like the idea of like when whether or not it was a okay. So here's something. Howland Reed is close with Lyanna, right? I mean, she kind of shows up there, and he gets close with the Starks. And if something did go on at Harrenhal, and Rhaegar and Lyanna are somehow involved, or something happens, maybe he is a part of trying to throw people off of her trail as to her being the Knight of the Laughing Tree. So, maybe he and Benjen did go up to the Wailing Tower and toss the shield out up into a tree. Maybe she did that. Maybe it was a giant bat, that they painted. Maybe the Laughing Werewood wasn't there on it, perhaps, and he just told that to his kids. And
see that now. Yeah. Now, see that to me, and you and I talked about this before we came on. The only issue I have with that, with the idea that the Laughing Tree was never on the shield, is he talks about the Night of the Laughing Tree is told to us through the eyes, it's through Mira, right? But that's not entirely true. We're told about it through A World of Ice and Fire as well.
Maesters.
And so that is a Maester's perspective of it. The Night of the Laughing Tree. And in A World of Ice and Fire, the Fall of the Dragons, the Year of the Fall Spring. That is kind of the big Mad King chapter. Right here, I'm gonna read this. For 7 days, the finest knights and noblest lords of the Seven Kingdoms contended with lance and sword in the fields beneath the towering walls of Harrenhal. At night, victors and vanquished alike repaired to the castle's cavernous hall of a hundred's hearths for feasting and celebration. Many songs and stories are told of those days and nights before the god's eye. Some are even true. So there they even say a lot of these stories aren't even true. Some are true. To recount every joust and jape is far outside of our purpose here. That task we gladly leave to the singers. 2 incidents must not be passed over, however, for they would prove to have grave consequence. The first was the appearance of a mystery knight,
there you go.
A slight young man in ill-fitting armor. So there we see that ill-fitting. Some people now it's referenced later that it's mismatched armor.
Yeah,
I think it's Amira that says mismatched. But now I've just read 2 things about it being ill-fitting. So there we go. Whose device was a carved white weirwood tree. Its features twisted in mirth. The Knight of the Laughing Tree, as this challenger was called, unhorsed 3 men in successive tilts to the delight of the commons. King Ares II was not a man to take any joy in mysteries, however. His grace became convinced that the tree on the Mystery Knight's shield was laughing at him, and with no more proof than that, decided that the Mystery Knight was Sir Jaime Lannister. His newest Kingsguard had defied him and returned to the tourney. He told every man who would listen. Remember, because Jaime, he gets upset and he sends Jaime away. Now, and we'll get to that later about who we think. But to me, Jaime could definitely be the Knight of the Laughing Tree, just in terms of success in battle.
Yeah.
Success in battle. But that's told from the Maesters. So there's definitely got to be some truth to the shield having the Laughing Tree on it, and that to me is my biggest issue with this guy's theory.
Yep.
about the shield not having the weirwood on it.
Yeah, and that's where I also was sort of like I felt like other people kind of knew, had also referenced a laughing tree. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
it's a pretty big thing. You had just said the mismatched
The fact
armor.
that he's also called the Knight of the Laughing Tree.
Right.
So
Now-
you would right. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, and so we said, like, when you try to play in and you try to see, I always try to step into this guy's shoes here and say, like, okay, what is it that he's seeing? Is he separating the fact that there's a
Absolutely.
mystery knight, and then there's someone that Howland Reed told Mira and Jojen was the Knight of the Laughing Tree? Because it does say, when you look up on the wiki, that the story of the Knight of the Laughing Tree is told by Mira to Bran. So most of what is known, it says most of what is known, is told by Mira to Bran. So we get that heavy bit. Now, you go to World of Ice and Fire, and as you said, it says that his armor was made up of mismatched armor bits and pieces that appeared ill-fitting on him.
Right.
So there you go. It says a shield was a blazing image of a white werewood with a laughing red face, and what have you. It even talks about the knights who had won: the Porcupine Knight, the Pitchfork Knight, and the Knight of the Two Towers. They were champions at the time before the short-statured mystery knight kind of shows up. And so, yeah, I don't know. So the whole bit about whether, like, fabricating the Knight of the Laughing Tree, I mean, again, it's like, I don't know, who all was was there some conspiracy in making up, this Knight of the Laughing Tree person or sigil? I don't know why you would do that, though, so I don't really understand why you would do it.
Yeah, exactly. Now, and my other only issue with Howland Reed, had it been someone else, right, the story could have been spread over time. But Howland Reed goes into, like, hiding. So I don't see Howland Reed out there kind of spreading the story, right? Because when we're told the story of Littlefinger sleeping with Catelyn, right, that's what we believe initially. And then later it's kind of revealed, Littlefinger's really the one kind of spreading that story. So keep in mind, as we've said very often, this series is told through us through point of view. When Ed Dane, Ed Dane is
right.
or Ned Dane, is telling Arya about Jon.
Yep.
Right, and the Milk Brothers, Arya can't believe it, and Arya can't believe that her father loved some other woman that wasn't her mother.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. So later it's revealed that it's may not be what we know, but this story hasn't just essentially been told to us through the eyes of Mira, right? It's been told through us through the eyes of Maesters as well in A World of Ice and Fire. So to me, that kind of makes it seem bigger. So that's why I'm like, I don't know. Now I definitely believe that that shield was specifically a laughing tree, right?
Yeah, and yeah, right. So when we get into the Lothston shield, piece, it's like, was it painted back to throw somebody off, or was it? What was it painted over? Like, first of all, obviously, if there was a shield that had a laughing tree on it, someone painted it there at the tourney, and they painted over another shield. So if they scraped that paint off or something, and they found, maybe it returns to its original state in some regard, but that being maybe the Lothston shield, or it's painted back again to represent a house that has, maybe they just picked a house,
right,
that was known to be associated with House Heron, or the Heron Hall. So
yeah, and actually, I have to correct myself. Earlier, I said there are no such thing as this. That's what this guy said. Is there's no such thing as laughing trees. I actually just found a line where I think I just found one. A Clash of Kings Theon 5.
Yeah.
I think Theon's having this is where he's having a dream or something. It says the sky was a gloom of cloud, the woods dead and frozen, roots grabbed at Theon's feet as he ran, and bare branches lashed at his face, leaving thin stripes of blood across his cheeks. He crashed through, headless, breathless, icicles flying to pieces before him. Mercy, he sobbed. From behind came a shuddering howl that curdled his blood. Mercy, mercy. When he glanced back over his shoulder, he saw them coming. Great wolves the size of horses, with the heads of small children. Oh, mercy, mercy. Blood dripped from their mouths, black as pitch, burning holes in the snow where it fell. Every stride brought them closer. Theon tried to run faster, and faster, but his legs would not obey. The trees all had faces, and they were laughing at him, laughing as and the howl came again. So,
yeah, I think there's many different types of faces. Actually, that's what I was going to say that earlier.
Right.
But yeah. So that whole bit about how Howland Reed. Now maybe the trees, near the Isle of Faces, maybe they aren't laughing there, and so it's something different. But yeah, I do think they're all different. They were made to represent different, personas. So,
yeah, exactly. So, okay. All right. So now, we're going to kind of move into some of the stuff we think here. Now, so this is kind of what is the significance of this shield. So this is where I want to talk a little bit about House Lothston and its history, because it's going to kind of tie into what I found, right? And that's that kind of that ill-fitting armor, right? So, okay. So, Mad Donnell Lothston, right? Mad Donnell, we hear of her a couple times, very briefly, but the first is here from Maidenpool. This is in the Mystery Night. It was only a few heartbeats later, as Dunk and Sir Kyle were helping Glendon Ball off of his horse, that the first trumpets blew, and the sentries on the walls raised the alarm. An army had appeared outside the castle, rising from the morning mist. Egg wasn't lying after all, Dunk told Sir Kyle, astonished. From Maidenpool had come Lord Mooton, from Raventree Lord Blackwood, from Duskendale Lord Darkland. The royal demisses about King's Landing sent forth Hayfords, Rosbys, Stokeworths, Masseys, and the king's own sworn swords, led by 3 knights of the King's Guard and stiffened by 300 ravens' teeth, with tall white weirwood bows. Mad Donnell Lothston herself rode forth in strength from her haunted towers at Harrenhal, clad in black armor that fit her like an iron glove, her long red hair streaming. So this is where, at the end of the Mystery Night, Bloodraven shows up, right? Well, he'd already been there, but
yeah. He was already,
Blood. It's like Clark Kent and the Superman,
officially,
right? But
Maynard Plum,
Raven,
same thing, yeah.
Right, yeah. So Bloodraven shows up with his army, and they're putting to bed the Second Blackfire Rebellion. So Mad Donnell Lothston herself rode forth in strength from her haunted towers at Harrenhal, clad in black armor that fit her like an iron glove. So here we are told about this Lothston woman riding from Harrenhal in armor that fits her like a glove.
Yeah.
The opposite of ill-fitting. So,
Yep.
What I believe is that this armor is the armor that is used by the Knight of the Laughing Tree, right? And so we hear that Jaime goes into Harrenhal, finds this shield, but we don't know about the armor. So,
right.
Go ahead.
No, well,
so
and Brienne, did she find? Remember she found all that other stuff with the shield too. Was any of that armor, or was that just coin and other miscellaneous stuff?
I said she found I think she found a halberd. No, she found chainmail, halberd, visored helmet, stuff like that. But Jaime would have had to have taken her armor as well.
Gotcha.
So she. No, yeah. 1 second. We're gonna talk a little bit about Mad Donnell here.
Yeah,
so okay.
yeah.
So and House Lothston. So
yeah.
House Lothston was they held Harrenhal before the Wents.
Yep.
So Mad Donnell, if you go back and you remember when we were talking about Aegon the Fourth, right? Aegon the Fourth, the unworthy, the king who sleeps with millions of women and fosters all these bastards like Bloodraven and starts the Blackfire Rebellion and all this stuff. So the woman who is described as making him a man is Lady Jane Lothston. Lady Felena Stokeworth. 10 years older than the king. Yeah. Lady Felena made him a man in 149 when Aegon was 14. This is from World of Ice and Fire. When a King's Guard found them abed together in 151. Her father wed Felena to his master-at-arms, Lucas Lothston, and persuaded the king to name Lord Lothston of Harrenhal in order to remove Felena from court. However, over the next 2 years, Aegon paid frequent visits to Harrenhal. So he's hooking up with this Lady Felena Stokeworth. Now, Lady Felena comes back about 14 years later with this daughter she has, Jane Lothston, who many believe is Aegon's daughter,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And then he hooks up with Lady Jane Lothston,
Yeah.
this daughter of Felena Stokeworth, who could also and most likely is also his own daughter.
Yeah.
Daughter of Lady Felena, the king's first mistress, either by Lucas Lord Lothston or the king himself. Jane was brought to court by her mother in 178 when she was 14. Aegon made Lord Lothston his new hand, and was said, but never proved, that he enjoyed mother and daughter in the same bed. He soon gave Jane a pox he'd caught from whores when he'd been after Lady Blackwood's, I think it was Lady Bethany's execution, and the Lothstons were all then sent from court to Ghent. So we had this pulled up here. I think it was 211. 211 is the second Blackfire Rebellion.
Okay. Let me check. Yeah. Second Blackfire Rebellion.
And regardless, we
you look at the
it's-
ages, right? You're trying to check the.
yeah, and so we did the math,
211
and so
AC.
for 211, right? Yeah, so 211, which is actually the Lothstons die out sometime after that, but Lady Danelle, right, who is the one who shows up and rides in with Bloodraven, she is kind of like considered like a vampire. Because she's from a house that is a bat. She's known to dabble in the dark arts, and she's also mad, like she's crazy.
Yeah, can I read? Go ahead.
What's interesting is that she may also be Lord. She may also be a bastard of
Aegon
the Fourth. Aegon the Fourth, and it may explain why she's so crazy, because she has that Targaryen lineage in it too, with a lot of incest, and her father may also be her grandfather.
Yeah. Yep. Pretty crazy, man. It's pretty crazy. Yeah. So, well, I wanted to just so Mad Lady Lothston is actually like such a big deal that they actually tell stories to young children in Westeros to kind of like make them afraid of doing misdeeds or whatever. She'll come get you or whatever. Jaime says in A Feast of Crows that he said that he was talking about his father's dogs thinking they had gone mad. He found himself remembering tales he had first heard as a child at Castle Rock of Mad Lady Lothston, who bathed in tubs of blood and presided over feast of human flesh within these very walls, being there at Harrenhal. So
Right, and so the interesting thing about her is, then it would give us this kind of Targaryen blood raven kind of possibly tie-in to the tourney at Harrenhal, right? This shield could even be hers. The armor that the Knight of the Laughing Tree wears, it just says ill-fitted armor, right? Yeah. It does. I believe later it's used. It's described as mismatched. But if you were wearing someone's custom armor, it may not fit. So to me, when we talk about Lyanna Stark, who's I think the most common person associated with the Knight of the Laughing Tree, most people think it's her. I think that it could make sense that this armor is hers, right?
Yeah.
And so maybe Gur's kind of pulling a bait and switch with us here, where he's kind of saying, "Hey, look at the shield. There's some significance to the shield that's being passed around, when really it's the armor we should be paying attention to."
Yeah, exactly. And whether it's, as you said, whether it's mismatched or ill-fitting, it gets, our final question will be, who is the Knight of the Laughing Tree? And so that will tell us, if the person's the same size as Mad Danelle, then sure, that would fit. It works. It's fine. It's not ill-fitting, and it isn't really. It can still be mismatched, though. It still could be mismatched armor. But then if you get into a couple, Howland Reed wearing it, Jaime, Benjen, whoever, that's another story, another tell, I would say. So
yeah, exactly. So all right, so that's kind of our segment there on what is the significance of this shield. Any last thoughts on that, Sir Edward, before we kind of go more into the Knight of the Laughing Tree business?
No, other than as you said, like House Lothston, just that connection to Aegon the Unworthy, man, just messes up so much stuff, because
I know
he has so many bastard children, and the great bastards that were legitimized. And you look at the Blackfire Rebellion, the significance there. That's why I think Fire and Blood, that Volume 2, is going to be huge. Like,
right.
Just this whole bit where like the support, who was on which side, Mad Donnell being on Bloodraven's side, and it's interesting. It's very interesting to me to kind of think about, and then their line dies out, and I know the he also was talking about the curse at Harrenhal and some of the going clear back to Aegon's conquest there, and some of maybe the curse that's associated with that place. We have very the turnover is nuts at Harrenhal, right? And so it's kind of hard to keep track of. And then the fact that you have a huge tourney at Harrenhal is the whole reason why we're diving into this. But the significance of the shield, I think it is. I'm still up in the air, and we'll decide here at the end as to whether it was actually a House Lothston shield, or was it the same one, or was it painted over to look that way to throw people off? Right. is what we'll kind of continue to discuss as we go forward. But yeah, there's a connection to the Targaryens there, and that Mad Donnell. So.
All right, so
and the armor was good. Sorry, the armor was a good connection that you made as well. So.
For sure, yeah. Does this shield tie into the Knight of the Laughing Tree? So damage of the shield. How could this be the same shield as the Knight of the Laughing Tree? Is it a painted shield? And the idea of it being a liar's shield. So, yeah. Sir Ezra,
yep.
Do you believe that this shield is the same shield as the Knight of the Laughing Tree? Of course, it's painted. I talked a little bit about Duncan Egg getting in the Duncan Egg series, the shield getting painted. Could it be the same one? How did it end up in the armory? All that kind of stuff. What are your kind of thoughts on that shield? And do you think it could be the same one?
Yeah. So here's the thing. I don't know I feel like if you want to go, you're searching for your own armor. Whoever that person is, whoever the Knight of the Laughing Tree is, they need it to be indistinguishable. They needed to choose armor that they knew wasn't associated with anybody else. So why you would choose maybe a house that had died out. House Lothston is gone. So if you're scrounging through the armory there, okay, that house, I'm Lyanna Stark, or I'm Howland Reed or Jaime or whoever, Benjen, and I see that shield and I see some armor there with it. I know that doesn't belong to anybody, and that person's long dead. So I would use it. I would grab it. I would get it painted, and then after the question is what do they do with it afterwards? Is really what I think. So I do think that it was a Lothston shield that was then painted over Knight of the Laughing Tree. You could have had another Lothston shield in there somewhere that they just sort of pull out, but we're trying to make a connection between the same shield that was hung up in the tree is the same one that Brienne and Jaime find, right?
Right.
And then why would you manipulate that shield? Is it to throw somebody off as to who that was? And maybe some of the connections, some of the conspirators maybe, or the plotting that goes on between Lyanna, Rhaegar, and what have you, because a lot is unknown and a lot is still to be discovered at that tourney. So there could be some misdirection here in repainting the shield back to the Lothston sort of sigil. But it does say when they find that shield that it was kind of cracked paint. So I looked at it; it had damage on it. It says that there's damage, but I don't know that it's. I don't know. It's just interesting that you would want more details. Is the paint cracked because there's several layers of paint on that bad boy, or was it damaged
That's what
afterwards?
Right.
Yeah.
You're right. That's what I was thinking of. So to me, for it to be a Lothston shield, right? It was just originally a Lothston shield, as Can't Use had said. Perhaps when whoever went and found the armor, I think, to me, I want to say it was Benjen, right? Because there's a line in the Night of the Laughing Tree where Benjen is talking to Howland. Right here I have it. Brand to a storm of swords. A lot of this. Then as now, she agreed. The wolf maid saw them too and pointed them out to her brothers. She's talking. Howland wants to kind of compete, right? I could find you a horse and some armor that might fit, the pup offered. The little Chronic man thanked him, but gave no answer. That he's talking to Benjen. His heart was torn. Chronic men are smaller than most, but just as proud. The lad was no knight, no more than any of his people. We sit a a boat mare more often than a horse, and our hands are made for oars, not lances. Much as he wished to have his vengeance, he feared he would only make a fool of himself and shame his people. The quiet wolf had offered the little Crannogman a place in his tent that night, but before he slept, he knelt on the lakeshore, looking across the water to where the Isle of Faces would be, and said a prayer to the old gods north of the neck. So, talking about even trying to find armor, right, for this. So Benjen may be the one who goes and finds this armor. So if Benjen goes and finds perhaps Mad Donnell's armor just hanging out in an abandoned part of, an abandoned part of Harrenhal, that may also be a shield, which is what I see what this guy's arguing is. I see this guy's kind of thing here. But to me, I think when the Mad King, when they find this shield, this Knight of the Laughing Tree shield, you could imagine the Mad King is like, well, bring me that shield, bring me all of this stuff. And so perhaps Rhaegar, who maybe in my mind finds Lyanna, is like, all right, well, paints over it, and then just tosses it somewhere. So you don't make that connection and have to find it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think the other, I don't know.
And to me, it seems like somebody as smart and as astute as Rhaegar would paint it with like a lot, House Lothston or something, rather than just paint it as like a black shield or something, and throw it in there in the armory so that, like it seems like it's, what I mean? Rhaegar's like too smart to just, to realize, oh, I don't need to just paint this black. I need to paint this something to where it seems like it should fit in there, rather than something else someone to do, just toss it in the lake or something. You know what I mean? Like,
right. And here's my question. So I think one of the major questions is not one that we wrote down, but the more I keep reading and thinking about this, it's sort of like when Rhaegar finds the shield, and let's say that is the shield, and it's, first of all, there's a lot of evidence that says, like, that suggests that Benjen was in the Wailing Tower, was searching in this secret place, found the Lothston shield, and then later on goes up there and, I don't know, either like they're looking for a place to hide it, or they chuck it outside, or maybe they chuck out a Lothston shield, to throw people off. Who knows? But what does Rhaegar, why does he want to mislead his father? Why does he want to... does he actually bring that shield back and show his father, here it is? And how could you have made a connection to anybody else? You know what I mean? If they're trying to figure, because he was wroth. I mean, he was mad. He was upset that this Mystery Knight had showed up, and he truly did think it was Jaime Lannister. But if Rhaegar finds out, if he sees the shield and thinks, well, that's Lyanna, or that's Howland Reed, or one of the Starks, is he trying to save them from the King's wrath? Is he, what's he doing by taking that, by manipulating the shield, or changing it, or altering it? Or did he just take back the shield and show it to his father, and then it just ends up getting lost in the armory and somebody repaints it over,
Yeah. Well, to me, maybe it was that shield and it's been painted over, and it's like a it's like a clue, right? So it's like, oh, if somebody brings you a Lothston shield, like, okay, that's like a sign, right?
Oh, okay.
like maybe that shield then somehow makes it to, because remember.
Oh, hold on. Okay, yeah.
Remember,
okay.
you've got Bloodraven, who may be communicating with Rhaegar. There's
Sure.
Rhaegar is communicating with Maester Aemon about prophecies and all of this stuff, and maybe they know at some point the shield's going to make it to, Howland Reed, or somebody's going to pick it up, then it's like, oh, it's like a signal. You know what I mean?
So a couple things. Because you've always had that idea that Bloodraven is somehow communicating in dreams or what have you,
right,
to Rhaegar, and so seeing the Lothston shield or the Laughing Tree, whatever it may be, that is a signal that would be a sign that this is the girl you need to be with, or you need to ally with Howland Reed, because Howland Reed is spared at the Tower of Joy, all that good stuff. What was the other bit I had there? There's the Jaime connection. So yeah, Jaime's the one who finds the shield, right?
In Harrenhal, yeah.
The Lothston shield. So if he was the one using it before, maybe he knows, you know what I'm saying? Like, and he knows to sort of pick that shield because he
exactly.
was
So that's definitely the Jaime aspect.
the Jaime connection. Yeah. So is that, he would know its significance or know that it was a part of the whole Mystery Knight. He has a history with it, and then so he passes that on to Brienne, and then again, as you said, it's heading back to Howland Reed and stuff. And we'll get into the whole Jaime thing in a second here, but there's a lot of reasons as to why it actually could be him. So
yeah. So again, yeah, super interesting. Yeah. Last kind of thoughts here before we move on to the who is the Knight of the Laughing Tree kind of segment here. And last thoughts on the shield and how it may connect to anything, Sir Ezra.
I was just reading back here through just a little bit on. I think, as you said, it's more starting to turn into more of the armor, and the stature of the Mystery Knight, but the, how that connects. How that shield connects to the I think the Knight of the Laughing Tree did use the shield. I believe that. I just don't know what happens afterwards or why they would alter or change it. But I think Jaime or Howland Reed or somebody can give us those answers. And I love the Bloodraven connection as being a part of that. But I guess it just, I don't know. Yeah, it's I don't know. That's really, I guess, all I have on it. I can't think of any other connections to it. The fact that it's at Harrenhal, it's like too many things, are in proximity to one another. Paint chipping, talking about things being painted over, it's worn, the connection to the Wailing Tower and them, possibly throwing it out of the tower,
right.
So much stuff. So
right.
Yeah, those are. Yeah, I don't really have any concrete thoughts on it other than I think it is the shield that was used by the Knight of the Laughing Tree.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, if so, who was the Knight of the Laughing Tree? So, we have about 5 people listed here: Lyanna Stark, Howland Reed, Benjen Stark, Ashara Dayne, Jaime Lannister. So, for me, I'm just gonna kind of quickly go through all 5 of these. So, Lyanna Stark to me is the number one choice. Again, I think now, to me, when I was reading this guy's theory, and I came across the Mad Donnell armor thing, I think that to me is like, wow, I guess I never put that connection together. That to me is like the connection. I'm like, wow. So I think that Mad Donnell's armor is what Lyanna Stark wears, whether the shield is connected or not. That is like, oh, wow, you found armor for a woman. Whether it's ill-fitting or not, it would be hard to find smaller armor to fit a 14-year-old girl, right?
Yeah.
Or however old Lyanna is. She's around that age, pretty young. That's gonna fit her to ride in this tourney. So to me, that was the huge connection there. That, and Lyanna, we know, is an excellent rider. She's wild. I think, with the exception of Jaime, I think she actually probably is the best person to have a chance at actually unseating people in a tourney. Yeah. Howland Reed, I get it. I get the idea of, they're talking about finding armor for him, and he wanted kind of revenge, but I just don't see Howland Reed unseating people at a tourney. He talks about, like, I'm not good with a lance. Like, so how is he going to beat people? Like, Sir Duncan the Tall, who was actually trained, has a hard time beating people at lance, right? Who's actually trained in it a little bit, and is this huge dude who is, like, he's Sir Duncan the Tall, and he's super strong. He has a hard time unseating people in jousting. So I just find it hard to believe Howland Reed. Benjen Stark, I get the argument for it. I just don't see Benjen really, maybe wanting some revenge, kind of like with Lyanna. But Lyanna, I see having an even more reason, because then there's all the stuff about just that Rhaegar connection too at the end with him finding her. That's probably how he meets her. Right. Idea, that kind of love story. Ashara Dayne, I've read the theories behind it. Is that Ashara Dayne rides, and maybe that's a kind of the opposite, right? That's a way for her to kind of, because she kind of likes Ned, and to kind of prove to Ned, these Northern Starkmen, and her brother is also the most badass knight ever. So like, I'm sure she picked something up along the way, just like Lyanna, and she is also Dornish, and in Dorne, the women have different kind of roles and stuff like that. And then Jaime, I think there's definitely an argument to be made for Jaime because Jaime, that would explain why he unseats 3 people. That the Mad King also kind of believes it, and Jaime wanted to compete in the tourney anyway, and Jaime has won tourneys. So I get that, but and that would also kind of have the thing if Rhaegar goes and finds, say, Jaime. Maybe Rhaegar tells Jaime. Maybe that's another reason why Jaime kills the Mad King. Maybe Jaime has this sort of knowledge about what's going to happen going into it. But to me, it would be kind of cool, but it would ruin the story to me of Jaime killing the Mad King in the moment, and doing like the right thing when he's always been kind of a jerk. So like to me, that's kind of like Jaime's like ultimate redeeming thing, is that he's always kind of initially he's viewed as this like kind of evil character who only cares about himself, and that when we find out why he did it, it's if he knew about it ahead of time, it would just kind of ruin that excellent storytelling. And I think Gur's too good of a storyteller for that.
Well, yeah. So wait, how would it? So Jaime knowing what ahead of time, like the descent between Rhaegar
So yeah. So so if Jaime was the thing, what would be the point of? Well, no. So maybe they just find the shields. Maybe Rhaegar does just actually go find the shield. But to me, I've always viewed it as Rhaegar goes and meets the person, right? Who is the Knight of the... It's not... He doesn't just find the shield. He finds them. And then it's just told that Rhaegar only found the shield.
Yeah.
Which is that Lyanna bit. Like he goes back, I just found their shield, kind of lies to his dad.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Because he's there under a liar's idea anyway, right?
Yeah.
Like he's the whole reason is he wants to kick his dad out.
Right.
So,
right. Let me start from the bottom up on our list here. So I'll start with Jaime.
Okay. Yeah.
And just so I think if it were Jaime to end on right where or to continue where we were talking there, if Rhaegar does meet with the Knight of the Laughing Tree and it is Jaime, I think a lot of those Kingsguard they almost were closer with the prince than they were with the king. It was like
absolutely
good friends. And so Jaime being the youngest, number one, probably smaller, probably not fully grown yet, right? I mean, wasn't he still pretty young at the time?
I think he was around that age too. He was like 14 or he was definitely a teenager.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought he was younger, maybe not filled out as much. So maybe that is a part of the ill-fitting or mismatched armor or what have you. Also, you feel like somebody would be able to tell the king if Jaime left King's Landing, you know what I mean, or if he showed up there. Unless they all just kind of kept it a secret, and that could be. But if Rhaegar shows up there, I think you could have a better understanding of, why Jaime does what he does later. Why does he kill the Mad King? Rhaegar maybe he's telling him that his father's going crazy and that you need to watch him. Things could be happening, etc. Yada yada yada. But as I don't know why Jaime would travel all the way up to Harrenhal, risk all of that, disobey the king. And it's not like he can get there fairly quickly. It's not like Rhaegar was like, send for him, I need him or something. You know what I mean? So not so sure on the Jaime bit, although he does have the skill, as you say, to unseat all of those other champions. So that's kind of neat. Did you mention Ashara Dane? I can't remember if you mentioned her at all.
Yeah, I did. And Jaime was 15 at the time of Tourney at Harrenhal.
15, okay. Yeah, 15.
Yeah.
So I put so as,
to me even still a 15-year-old Jaime Lannister.
Yeah.
I feel like that. I feel like he would actually. I even feel then he still might be a little too big for Mad Donnell's armor.
Oh yeah. Well, because they said
well, if that is if of course that is the armor that's used.
Right, yeah, if that's the armor, sure. Because they talk about the stature between the Stark boys and Hallan Reed, and I'm imagining that Jaime is maybe not as bulky as they are, but he's still built, So, Ashara Dane, the only reason that I think that connection's there is just because of her. A lot of people believe that she ends up actually being with Hallan Reed. They he's the one kind of watching her from afar. Real mysterious.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Those Dornish features that she might be into more than the Stark boys. So, could she have taken up? I mean, she's from House Dane. Her brothers are a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, so I feel like she could possess that type of ability to unseat some folks, and she would fit into the armor, and she has the connection to Howland Reed. So I actually sometimes almost elevate her up there right near Lyanna as being someone that could have done it. Benjen Stark, you know, we kind of said he's the younger one, so again, maybe not as big or developed yet. He's still a young wolf, and you know, maybe could fit into the armor, but it looks a little weird on him, perhaps, or, you know, or something. Howland Reed, again, I don't know that he has the skill, but he could have definitely got into his own armor and taken these guys on. It just seems not to go against his nature. You know, if the squires are the ones picking on him and beating him up and causing him trouble, then he's going to take on their knights and unseat them. You know, it just seems a little different. Lyanna is definitely your number one candidate there. So, yeah. So there's that. Well, I had a thought here. Where was it? Oh, let me go back here real quick. So, yeah, one of the things that I was looking at. So when you talk about who the Knight of the Laughing Tree is, back to Kent Hughes and some of his ideas that he had was being discovered, and which is what I was kind of talking about. Is like what would the risk be? You know, and they're just trying to teach these guys a lesson. You know, it's the king is there. He clearly became upset. Theft is involved, right? So if you steal somebody else's armor, you know, that's not a good thing. And if you can't wear your own, because then, you know, you are identifying yourself and you could get in trouble with other houses. If you're young kids and you're not supposed to be doing that type of stuff, then there could be all of that. Also, they talked about, one of the things that I thought was interesting that he mentions is the painters. Wouldn't they go around and question the painters as to who painted that shield?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
And so maybe, you know, again, he's pushing towards there never really was a Knight of the Laughing Tree shield. Yeah, that was not something that was painted there, that Howland Reed has just lied about that and made that bit up. But again, I don't know why he would do that. I don't even know why he would need to do that to throw anybody off. The Knight of the Laughing Tree itself, that sigil itself, throws people off, I think. You know, so anyways, there's that. Because he's pushing for, like, well, that's why you go get a House Lothston, you know, shield and armor, because no one can claim it. It's old, it's abandoned, and that's why you could use that. But then to touch it up, if you don't want people to discover where it came from, or that it was just somebody there who, you know, went up and grabbed some armor, now you think a mystery knight like rode in from somewhere,
right?
You know what I mean?
Right.
Versus like somebody in the camp actually just got some armor, touched it up, and then did this. A little different. So anyways, I don't know, my top candidate is still probably Lyanna. You know, and with that form-fitting armor that is up in the Wailing Tower, I kind of feel like it could be one of our female characters, you know, and that would be a pretty boss moment for them, you know, to come in there and to do that. Now, if it's a Shara Dane, my friend, hear me out. If it's a Shara Dane and you go back to the whole her secretly still being alive, okay, and being, you know, in a relationship, you know, being Mira's, you know, mother and all that good stuff, then he's trying to keep that a secret still. You know what I mean? You know, Howland is still trying to keep her identity secret. I don't really know how the shield would help with any of that.
Right.
Other than like, you know, so I don't know, but there's just a strong connection between those two characters. Yeah, and it makes me think that maybe she would have stood up for him. So I don't know.
Yeah. So
what do you got? Any other thoughts?
No, man. Hey, that's kind of it. I think we pointed out a lot of the cool stuff in this theory. A lot of the stuff this breaks down. We are definitely going to need some help here from our bannermen. You know, looking at you guys like Ghost of Harrenhal, most specifically. He's the one who really needs to break this down. Lord Adam Parker. I mean, all of, you know. Yeah. Sam the Hammer, all of them. Yeah, James Hunter, all of our fellow our great listeners. Let us know what you think, because there's a lot of cool stuff in this theory. We'll add a link to this guy's major blog post, so you can kind of do some investigating for yourself. But yeah, I think it's super cool. I think the connections, to me, the big takeaway for me was the MEAD Danelle Lothston kind of connection, and it would be so Gur-like to kind of give us this shield, right? The shield story, and kind of lead us away from the armor, right? And have it be this kind of connection there too, you know. And there's other people have kind of talked about the idea of like the Lostons, you know, being bats, and the idea
wolf.
of like the winged wolf, and some of the stuff with the towers, right? The idea of this wailing tower and how it's brought up. Let me read some things here. This is from Arya 7 in A Clash of Kings. The ground floor of the Wailing Tower was given over to storerooms and granaries. The 2 floors above housed part of the garrison, but the upper stories had not been occupied for 80 years. Now Lord Tywin had commanded that they be made fit for habitation again. There were floors to be scrubbed, grime to be washed off windows, broken chairs, and rotted beds to be carted off. The topmost story was infested with nets of huge black bats that House Went had used for its sigil. I don't believe that's correct. I think Arya is incorrect there, right? Is House Went's sigil a bat? I don't think so.
So it's the giant bat of
House Went is 9 black bats on a yellow field. Yep, they do. So they use it as well.
But but it's many little bats versus the giant bat.
Right.
Yeah.
The giant. Yeah. Instead of the giant bat. Yeah. So
Yep.
And there were rats in the cellars as well as paraphrasing here, and ghosts. Ghost of Harrenhal. Some said the spirits of Harren the Black and his sons. So this is interesting here. Brienne, too, A Feast for Crows, she had a cheerful manner, but when Brienne showed her the shield, her face went dark. My old ma used to say that giant bats flew from Harrenhal on moonless nights to carry bad children to Mad Danelle for her cookpots. Sometimes I'd hear them scrabbling at the shutters. So again, there is this kind of connection, Harrenhal and bats. But I feel like there's got to be a bigger connection there, right? Like we know that every line matters in A Song of Ice and Fire. So there's definitely some sort of connection here with Harrenhal and the bats and the Starks. I don't think it's just like a cool connection. I think there's something bigger there.
Yeah, and so if you could, Sir Matt, just real quick before we go, like if you pull up the can't use, his theory, if you have that in front of you,
right? I do. Yeah.
Why? What part of it does it? Where does it explain that? Why Hallen would actually lie? Not whether it is a lie, but why would he do that? I guess. Does he ever answer that question? I'm just looking through here real quick. There is a section where it says why you lie.
Absolutely. Lies that tell the truth. Okay, so maybe this is just talking about why.
Keep scrolling down. You'll see there's a section that's called "Why We Lie." Why would Hallen lie? And so I think
exactly. Yeah, he says lies make tales more enjoyable, as you and I had kind of talked about, right? With we see this specifically with Duncan and Sir Arlen of Pennytree and the story, and then Baylor Breakspear. He says lies help conceal the truth. As we see with the lies Sansa and Littlefinger have to tell in order to win over the lords, the Clarent, and the lies Tyrion tells Penny, lies often serve as a very protective function. As we know, possibly Ned Stark's only lie he ever tells, right? In Hallen's case, lying makes sense because if the tale was told straight and without mystery, it becomes obvious that one of the Starks is the most likely candidate for the Mystery Knight. This runs the risk of exposing them as the enemy that Aerys had feared, and possibly changes the popular narrative that Rhaegar abducted Lyanna. Lying protects the identities and the secrets of those involved. As for the secret, you will find in a later section. And he goes on. He says lies make tales more memorable, and stuff like that. He doesn't really have a huge reason as to exactly because we just don't know.
Well,
we don't know the truth yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the one that you just said, that this is what I was missing, and I hadn't found it yet in the reading, but where he says that this runs the risk of exposing them as the enemy of Aerys, or the enemy that Aerys had feared, because he does.
Right.
The whole reason he comes to Harrenhal is because he fears that these lords are plotting against him, right? And so he wants to go up there to make sure his presence will kind of, put this down, quash this.
Right. Well, something interesting about the Night of the Laughing Tree story.
Yeah.
I don't believe Mira actually ever says her dad. I think she the entire time they refer to someone, it's the Chronic Man. I don't believe she ever says my dad was there. Fans have just always said, "Oh, it's Howland Reed." But I believe if you go read on the wiki, and when I was doing research too, I don't believe it ever says Howland did this, Howland did that. It is always referred to as the Chronic Man. So ultimately, theoretically, it might not even be Howland Reed who was there. But
yeah, I did just read that. Gosh dang it!
And we do know that Howland Reed is Howland Reed specifically. We know is at or did save Ned. So I mean, is it possible that it's not Howland Reed? Like maybe 0.01%, but it's so clearly obvious that it would have to be.
Right. Yeah. So here's something from the wiki. Most of what is known about the tale of the Night of the Laughing Tree comes from the story told by Mira Reed to Bran Stark. As an introduction to her story, Mira suggests that this knight might have been a Crannogman, to which Jojen Reed adds, or not. So he's saying it could have been or it could not have been. And then, Jojen expected to have heard this tale 100 times from his father, Eddard, but Bran denies any knowledge of the tale. He explains that old Nan was was the one narrating stories to him, not his father. So Jojen believes that Bran should have heard this tale 100 times from his father, Eddard Stark, but Bran has never heard the tale, right? Right. So that's kind of interesting, in just that it's never been told. So it's close to the heart of Howland Reed, and so. Yeah, that could be. But I'm starting to understand more as to why he thinks that Howland would have lied about this, or why they would have covered up who the Night of the Laughing Tree was, because they didn't want Aerys to sort of realize that maybe they were plotting against him, or that he since he's the Mad King, he's going to suspect that the Starks are totally against him, or Rhaegar, he's going to quash whatever Rhaegar's trying to do with Lyanna. He's going to put an end to that. So, There's all of that, but I don't know. I'd love to hear what people think about it. I'd love to hear people's thoughts, because it's definitely interesting, and it's really cool to kind of take different pieces and see what connections you can make and what have you. So,
yeah. All right. So, all right, hey guys, this is kind of our Christmas episode. These kind of green deems, bigger kind of one kind of focused theory episodes. There'll be. We have a lot more of these planned. These are kind of Patreon episodes, but we're like, hey, it's Christmas. Let's give one, and since we haven't done one yet on Patreon, and we want to do something fun for Christmas. So
absolutely. All
right, let us know what you guys think. I certainly had a lot of fun doing a lot of the research on this. And stuff like that. So
it's awesome, man.
So, all right, Sir Ezra, I will, does House Lothston have words?
No, I just looked them up. I was just
dang it.
I know, that's what I was looking. I was like, what are their words? But they don't really have any. So.
What about House Went? Do they have words? They have house words? I don't think so.
I don't think they do. But hey, I mean, in the words of House Lothston, we'll just make them up. The big giant black bat who scares the hell out of us.
Yep, sounds great.
There you go.
All right. Hey, Merry Christmas.